This is World Awakenings, the fast track to enlightenment with your host, Carl Gruber. World Awakenings is a podcast dedicated to opening your mind, your heart, and your eyes to the fact that the world's population is now, more than ever, awakening to all things spiritual, metaphysical, and enlightening, and just how they play an all-important role in our daily life. So join Carl on this enlightening experience as he interviews metaphysical and spiritual experts to discuss, debate, and delve deeply into the hows and whys of this worldwide awakening.
One of the greatest things you can do for the overall quality of your life and maintaining excellent health throughout your lifetime is exercising. And for me, my exercise of choice is running. Hi, I'm Carl Gruber, the author of the short ebook, The Jogger to Runner book. I've been a runner for over 40 years, and I've completed 78 marathons. Now, running is my passion, and that is why I wrote this short, concise, and easy-to-use ebook to help you become a runner too. So if you're now walking or just slowly jogging but have the desire to begin running, the Jogger to Runner book is now available for just $1.99. Just scan the QR code you see on the screen now to get your copy. You don't have to run a marathon or even race, just run for the joy of it and run for a better quality of life. That's the Jogger to Runner book. Get your copy today. Hey, if you are a seeker of all things spiritual, metaphysical, and enlightening, then you have come to the right place. This is World Awakenings, a fast track to enlightenment. I am your host, Carl Gruber. Now, this is a show where we seek to know and understand that there is much more, way more than this 3D limited physical world we seem to be stuck in. Now, there's far more in the unseen realms of dimensions and that have direct and plausible effect on each of us as individuals and for the collective known as humanity. So, welcome. Now, let's head off to meet our featured guest here on episode number 171. And our featured guest on today's show is Rudy Daniel, originally from Armenia. He is an entrepreneur in the mindfulness space, an author, and a philosopher. He is co-founder of a very cool app called Affirmate, and a powerful mindfulness tool that connects the mind and body in a short 90-second practice. He is also the author of Behind the Mask, Beyond the Mind, a pretty awesome book too. Rudy engaged in extensive reading and embracing various mindfulness practices, and he gradually uncovered a profound approach to living, a deeper connection with the universe that changed his perception of life. And Lord knows the world needs a change in their perception of life. So welcome, Rudy. Thank you for being on World Awakenings.
Thank you very much, Carl. It's a pleasure to be here.
Yeah, it really is cool. You've been so gracious in coming in on the show on a short notice. And Rudy is in Tel Aviv, and I'm in the U.S. So we're, I always emphasize that it's time and distance mean nothing when you're doing Zoom. What's really cool, Rudy, I'd like to find out, how does a young man like you who grew up in a country of Armenia end up becoming a philosopher, an entrepreneur, and an author? What are your roots that led you to this point in your life?
I mean, I'm not that young, but thank you. I'll be hitting 40 actually in a year. So yeah, half of life at least behind me. So as you mentioned, I was growing up in the Soviet Union back in the day. I don't know if everybody knows nowadays what the Soviet Union is or was, but basically it was a sort of a Russian empire that collapsed in the 90s. And how did I become all what you described? I guess it's my nature, I cannot put my finger on it or how my path kind of developed throughout the years. I guess I always had a curious mind, and I always was amazed by the profoundness of the universe and its mysterious nature and the mysterious nature of our reality, of our life. And the questions I had as a child kind of evolved into a deeper questions that I have now as an adult, but in essence, they're the same. So I would say that curiosity was the main driver of my life.
Yeah, and you know it's interesting too. I was reading that you had some extraordinary encounters when you were younger that propelled you onto this path of exploration on the nature of reality. Can you tell us about some of these extraordinary encounters had and what they were?
Yeah, so I described that in my book. It was a lot of mystical experiences that I encountered as a child and throughout my adolescence. Very strange things, really, that back in the day didn't make much sense to me, but it did provoke a sense of curiosity because there was a clear distinction between the outside world that everyone perceived and the mystical experiences I had. For example, when it was almost every night when I was going to bed, I had the sensation of the sheets of my bed kind of breathing, like contracting and e- expressing themselves in many different ways that basically freaked me out. But it was more real than real could be. At times, time would seems to work much faster for me than it was for the quote unquote outside world. A lot of mystical experiences that with time kind of passed away, and I didn't encounter any of them until the age of 30. But what they have provoked stayed with me. And so this curiosity of the mysterious nature of reality have kind of stayed. So these kind of experiences, and I've talked to many people, and a lot of people had mystical experiences, certainly as children. We see things that adults don't see. You can look at small children and the way they look at the world. They looked much more amazed than we are. So the things that they see is the things that we forgot or maybe is not available from for our spectrum of sensitivity in terms of our organs, our eyes, our ears, our senses. We perceive the world now more rigid, structured concept as adults, while children see the world as a creative phenomenon. So I guess that when I was young, I was sensitive enough to kind of tap into those spectrums of reality that I would just call a mystical experience.
Yeah, I love that creative imagination with kids. You know, I've had many guests on here who have had similar experiences to you as a child. You know, when you're young, and especially very young, you're closer to source. You know, and you kind of still remember where you came from originally, and you're more in touch with it. But then as we grow older, the world seems to kind of beat it out of us, you know, and we're programmed to no longer, oh, it's just your imagination, you know, that type of thing. And then for you, it kind of kicked back in at the age of 30, which I thought is very excellent. A lot of people can't say that, believe me. But well, I'm curious. You reached a point in your life where you were successful. People saw your exterior life as successful, but it didn't match what was really going on inside of you. Was there a particular experience that made you realize that you had to make a change?
It was an accumulation of time and experiences that I had in terms of, many aspects of life. So when we grow up, the main notion or the main notions are career, family life, social life, some sort of personal growth. And I felt that when I was closing on 33, 34, I felt that I've kind of did all that already. And although, you can have different variations of how would you call a successful career or a good family or whatever. I felt that these are just, variants of the experience I already had and accumulated. And so I sort of found life as a stagnant drag that I have to kind of carry with me throughout the day, and it was very unsatisfying. And you might even say that it was, in a way, depressing. I kind of felt that all the exploration that could have been done already have been done, and there's little left for me as an individual to experience. And so it led me to deepen my thoughts and kind of stretching out the intelligence that is available to me in seeking those kind of answers to those kind of strange questions. And the questions that arose were of the nature of, who am I? What is this reality? What is this universe? And although from the outside it sounds like questions like, metaphysical questions or philosophical questions, I kind of tackled those questions in a logical way because I didn't want to put it under the rug and forget about it and put a concept on it. But I really wanted to investigate deeply what does it mean to be alive, or who is I that I'm referring to when I'm saying I am. So this took me on a very long and interesting journey in which I've tried many things, read many books, and encountered countless traditions and arts and science and philosophies from great people. And I was lucky enough that it kept me motivated until I saw some sort of crack in reality. And from there, a more profound approach to life was emerging through this crack. And slowly, with time, it took over. And now I'm in a position that life is amazing all over again. Kind of like a child or like an innocent man. You can say that the outside world hasn't changed for me, but my perception of the world is radically changed, and therefore I can enjoy strange things like looking at trees and be happy, or looking at the clouds and be happy, or looking at people and be happy, or just appreciate the profoundness and perfection of it all, but just living mindfully, being present in life rather than thinking about life. So before that, I was always one step away, one thought away from reality. And with time, I feel like more and more I am in the present and less I am in my mind.
Wow, that is a very cool story. I mean, to be able to say that that's where you're at the age of 40, a lot of people get to the age of 80 or 90 and never achieve that. And then they just die and they have to go on another journey to find out. Um, that's a really interesting story on that. You talk about mindfulness as being one of the main things you teach. Now, I even write about mindfulness in my own book, True Spirituality and the Law of Attraction, and it's quite sometimes a controversial topic, but Wikipedia defines the word mindfulness as involving intentionally bringing one's attention to the internal and external experiences occurring in the present moment that can be developed through the practice of meditation. So that's kind of what you just described, being able to look at a tree in the moment and be happy. And that's a good example of that.
Indeed, I would say that the description you just read is quite correct until it entangled the explanation with the term meditation, which is a mix of terms, which I would like to elaborate on. So usually people talk about mindfulness and meditation as the two big topics. Sometimes it is synonymous in eyes of people. So I really want to make the distinction. So What mindfulness is basically, as the word itself is, being mindful or being full of mind, as you just said, being present, being aware. And it is the backdrop of all the spiritual methods that are spread throughout many cultures and throughout history. One of them is meditation. So we in the West perceive meditation as usually as a sitting meditation where you just sit and trying not to think or trying to resist thought or trying to resist the mind. And in the Eastern tradition, meditation is our basic nature. So it is what we are stripped from our identities. So this is the basic being of our being, if you want, if you might. So in the West, we treat meditation as a sort of a practice, like a gym. The same kind of confusion you can see in yoga. Yoga in the Eastern traditions is a way of life. Yoga means union, and a yogi is the one who practices certain methods. And in the West, yoga is just another day in the gym where you see people with mats going around, it's my yoga day and today is my mindfulness day and all this kind of stuff. So mindfulness would be the backdrop of all the methods, and meditation would be a method that is applied in mindfulness. I think that for us Westerners, cultivating true meditation as practiced by the Eastern civilization would be very difficult. If you just tell a regular person to close their eyes and sit quietly without moving and think of nothing for 10 minutes, it sounds easy, but when you do it, you realize it's the hardest thing you can do because your mind doesn't quiet down on command. You cannot command your mind to do anything. So it grates against you when you try to do that. And even sitting still would be something very challenging because we are very used to move all the time anxiously. And while in the East, sitting for hours would be something normal in a lotus posture, for us, it would be terrifying. And the usual meditation looks something like you close your eyes and you try to meditate, and after 1 minute you start to feel that your knee hurts and you think about your knee, and then you think, is it cold in here, is it hot in here, and midway you understand that you're not meditating and you're frustrated and you look like you're meditating but you're not, so you're talking to yourself inside your head. And this is why a lot of people don't practice meditation, because the context is incorrect. And what I'm trying to convey and promote is that mindfulness as the backdrop of all these methods would be a much better doorway to us Westerners in creating a peaceful, blissful, and happy life that could maybe create a crack in reality through which we can see the profoundness of life. So by that I mean, let's say that you drink your morning coffee. So instead of just devouring this coffee and taking a close look at your watch and be anxious about the next 10 things you need to do, just stop there for a second with your coffee and feel the warmth in your hands when you're holding the cup and smell the aroma of the coffee. Try to kind of go with the trip of where this coffee came from. And when you drink it, you appreciate the taste and how it behaves when it goes throughout your body. And all of these sensations are connecting you to the immediate moment, while the usual coffee drinking would be something mechanical people do just because of the power of habit. So tapping into these kind of practices, it's much easier for our Western civilization, and the way we think is much easier than sitting hours on end in a lotus posture trying to think of nothing, should be unattainable for, I would guess, 99% of the people. And this is what I'm trying to promote, and this is the distinction between mindfulness and meditation. I hope that answers your question.
Well, that was a beautiful explanation, actually. And, you know, I have an interesting story on mindfulness and meditation. And a colleague of mine years ago told me the story. He works at a school in San Diego, California, and he's a life coach and practices these things. But he's a teacher also. So he went to the administration to try to see if they could do a mindful minute for the students in the morning. In United States schools, most days begin with they coming over a PA system with the principal doing morning announcements, that type of thing. And he said that if he had approached them and said, well, we'd like to have some meditation for the students, they would all go, oh my God, that's woo-woo stuff. No, you can't we're not going to have our students going in the occult. Instead, he used the term mindful, and they said, oh, okay. And so every morning he was able, they instituted that, and the students have 1 minute of mindfulness. And I think that's beautiful, but it's almost like semantics. You know, if you say meditation in the West, a lot of people still associate it with woo woo, you know, that out there stuff. But mindfulness seems to be more acceptable. And one last thing, my best experience of meditation ever was a local Unity church here where I live. On Saturday mornings, they do a Zen Buddhist meditation. And I had never done anything like that. And I went a couple times, and it was the first time I sat with like 30 other people, total silence. And it was one of the few times that I, you know, was able to just sit there quietly for that long. And it was a beautiful experience. So what you're doing is just phenomenal. And one last question here: why is it so hard for people to meditate and be mindful? Is it our society where everything is go 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 go? Everything, you know, if you can't perceive it in 10 seconds, it's too long.
Yeah, I mean, if we're talking about the classic meditation that people think of, which is a sitting meditation, would be, as I said, unattainable for most people. And then when they try it, they understand that it's too difficult, or they're not understanding what is going on, and it seems like useless practice for most. I've talked to a lot of people, and I call it meditation fatigue. So people try to stick to it like a gym. I'll do 10 minutes meditation a day, and then after a while they're like, yeah, I'm kind of over with that because it's too difficult, or I can't see any results. It's the Western mind that has this go, go, go attitude, with trying to extract some sort of value, tangible value from meditation. But in essence, meditation is not done to improve oneself. As I said, meditation is the nature of our being. So it's more comparable to, why are you dancing, or why are you singing? Are you doing it to improve yourself, or are you doing it because you're loving it, because you dig it? This should be the only reason. So when you have a meditative experience, you understand that it's not a practice that you do to improve yourself. You just do it because you do it. It's one of those things. And this is why it is very difficult for us to meditate. But when it comes to mindfulness, it is very easy to see that we can integrate small ritual-like practices into our lives, which will definitely enhance our experience. So, for example, if you're practicing self-positive talk or positive affirmations, and when you say to yourself, I'm good, or I'm beautiful, or I'm healthy, it has a profound impact on oneself. In contrast to, you would say, I'm no good, or I'm not healthy, or nothing works out for me. And that also has a profound impact on oneself. And this is now well known in modern psychology. They call it CBT, or there are different names to it, basically practicing positive self-talk. We can understand that small things make the picture brighter or beautiful. It's all in the details. And the Western society have tried to dive headfirst into the realm of Eastern meditation, which is based on thousands of years of tradition and context, and we have nothing to do with it. And this is why we call it woo-woo or treat it in those kind of ways. So I'm saying, do not try to meditate, at least in the beginning. Try to live mindfully. There are a lot of practices that can keep you aware and grounded, and it will just make life better for you in many different ways. So I think that mindfulness is our pathway to a more profound and beautiful life.
Well, you explained this beautifully. I think that's pretty simple for people to understand the way you said it. I also find it interesting that you say there's a correlation between energies and frequencies and mindfulness and happiness. How so?
So when I'm talking about these kind of things, I'm not trying to be metaphysical when I'm talking about the way frequencies may enhance your experience or make your experience worse. I'm just talking straight out scientific language. So we all understand that a vibration is some sort of a pattern which has an upside and a downside, sort of a crest and a trough system. And a frequency is the measurement between those. So it's, I'm a musician. So for me, it's common stuff. So when we're talking about mindfulness in regards of vibration and frequencies, we are talking about creating tunes or creating music which resonates with certain emotions or feelings. And I can give you an example of how that works. So say you go to a party or you go to a musical show, and there's a very lovely tunes playing, and you can immediately feel how your body or your mind evoke an emotion. So you're happy, for example, and a minute before you weren't happy until you heard this melody, and this melody resonates with you. So this is the impact that frequencies or vibration, we can use them synonymously, have an impact over you. And if you want, the other side of that is, say, when you're driving your car and someone is not patient enough and is using the horn frequently, and it freaks you out. So this is also a vibration, but it is tuned in a certain way that doesn't resonate with you. And thus you feel that your emotion might go in the other spectrum of negative kind of emotion. So this is the relation I see between vibration, frequency, you might call it energies. There are different names for it, but basically when we're talking about mindfulness, we're talking about creating the right set and settings for the mind. The mind is a bit different from the body in this regard, meaning that if you go to a gym and you push weights, it doesn't matter what kind of gym it is, basically, your body reacts the same. But if we are talking about the mind is very sensitive to the environment of the context. So if we're having this conversation, let's say that we're having some sort of a spiritual conversation or a philosophical discourse about profound understandings. So if you would do it on a rush hour, mid-street, and everybody's rushing out and in, and you have all this noise, the context may be profound, but your ability to absorb it and give it some sort of value would be decreased. And if we take the same conversation and put it in an ashram or somewhere in nature, when the set and settings are correct, your ability to learn from this information, be inspired by this information, and involved in this information increases rapidly. So in this regard, the correct tunes, the correct vibrations, the correct set and settings for mindfulness is crucial.
Yeah, I really like that explanation. I think the world is coming more and more to understanding that sound vibrations and frequencies definitely have a positive or negative impact. And you, being a musician, understand that. I had a lady on here, Eileen McCusick, who has biofield tuning. I have one of her tuning forks, and it's tuned to the Schumann resonance that you use, and you can use it to help heal and align yourself with. I think it's really time we dive into this beautiful application you have, the Affirmate app. Give us an idea how that came about. You had a co-creator with that. How did you guys come up with the idea for this?
Well, first of all, Carl, thank you for the opportunity to share this. And it's very exciting for me, and I love to talk about it. So thank you.
You're welcome.
The Affirmate app has a real cool story. So about 3 years ago, I had a dream. It was a very vivid dream. And in this dream, I saw a kind of practice that would be tangible and accessible for a lot of people to engage in mindfulness. And it was a very vivid dream, and I saw almost every detail. And when I woke up, I was kind of pacing back and forth in the house, trying to understand what just happened, because it was like a revelation to me. But back then I was deep in my career. I was working in tech companies, and I kind of put it aside for a while. And then me and my present co-founder, which was just a friend, because before we became co-founders, we were sitting on his balcony and discussing dreams, which is a very interesting topic. And I told him about the dream, and he got very excited, and he said, let's do something about it. And I told him, you know what? Sometimes when you hear an idea, you rush into doing it, but maybe just think about it, and next time we meet, we'll see where it goes. So when I met him after like a week or so, I asked him, well, did you think about it? And he told me, yeah, every single day. So from there, we became co-founders, and we co-founded the Affirmate app, which is live now for 2 months. It's a mindfulness app. Currently, we have just one practice on the app, which is the Affirmate practice that you mentioned before we began talking, which is Crystal. So what the current practice does is we take a positive affirmation. You choose a positive affirmation between various categories that we have. And we found a way to encode the words of the affirmation into an array of light vibrations that are working with the item you're placing on the phone. So it can be a ring, it could be a crystal, a necklace. And what it does basically, after you kind of absorbed in this 90-second mindfulness practice with your item, is after the practice, you take your item with you, and it's a tangible connection. It's a reminder of your intention. So usually when you are, you might state a positive statement, but after your, I don't know, second or third email in work, you forgot about it. But when you have an item that you have kind of infused your intention to the item, you have it with you, and during the day you can just take a look or touch the item, and it immediately brings you back to your intention. So kind of the same way with breathing meditation, when we say, come back to your breath, come back to your breath. So when you look at the item or touch your item, come back to your intention. Remember, what is your intention? Be here, be present. So this is our first practice. And since we launched, we have a lot of great feedback from people, and people love it. And we're going to release a really big update next month with 3 more practices that we're going to introduce, which will be short, engaging, impactful. And my mission and our mission in Affirmate is to create an app that doesn't feel like an app. It's kind of, your daily go-to in mindfulness. So it will help you to create this crack in reality and live profoundly.
Man, a lot of us could use a crack in reality, that's for sure. As I told you before we came on here, I downloaded that app last night, and this morning was the first time I used it. And I think it's pure genius using a personal item that you can attach to the frequencies of these affirmations. It's a tangible thing. Like I use my crystal, and as we know, crystals absorb energy and frequencies and hold that for you. I carry them just to absorb negative energies, but they can also enhance that. And so it was just beautiful, and it's short. It doesn't take long. It's really laid out. I believe there were some subliminals in there too that I heard really quietly in the background. Beautiful music and tones. And just, I would highly recommend anybody to go ahead and do this. I will put all the links to this affirmation and to your book that we're going to talk about in a moment in the show notes. But yeah, this is just beautiful. And you say you have an update too. I mean, it's already pretty cool.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Yeah. So this was just the first practice. We want to introduce I feel like this is the new generation of digital mindfulness, to make it more experiential than a kind of a schooling system that you have with the regular well-known meditation apps, which you just learn. You're a student, you listen to guided meditation. And I feel that we are moving towards a more experiential phase when people want to touch, people want to feel, people want to engage, and they don't want to just be schooled because we had enough of schooling, during our days growing up. So we wanna get our hands dirty, if you might, in the field of mindfulness, and we wanna feel, we wanna try, and this is the update that I'm talking about, and we'll have a lot of them with new practices, and hopefully people will like it. And we're super open, by the way, to feedback, and you can your listeners can go to our website and drop us a message, and yeah, we'll be super grateful.
Well, what I like about it already, and I've only used it that one time just a little while ago before we came on here, is you can do it anytime, anywhere if you want. And I use headphones, which is really highly recommended, so that you can drown out all the distractions and focus on that. I'll probably use it before I go to bed tonight, which would be very cool and helpful to be restful. Yeah, one other thing too, we've already talked about modern society, people not being able to focus for very long. You say that 90 seconds of mindfulness can be even more beneficial than 90 minutes of a meditation, right?
Right. By the way, Carl, is this noise, can you hear it? There's like music coming from outside, or it's okay?
Oh, that's all right. Music is good. We like frequencies and tones, right?
Okay, so yeah, it's a great question, and I feel like it's pretty easy to explain that. Certainly in the realm of the mind, quality is better than quantity. So you can sit in a 10-minute meditation in which, as I described earlier, 9 minutes you will be struggling and talking to yourself inside your own head, and fight demons and think about your itchy leg or your email that you forgot to send. Or you can immerse yourself in a very short practice, and inside this immersion you can be fully present for a short period of time, which in our Western society is something that we emphasize a lot. We are not used to prolonged period of times. You can even see it. YouTube has begun with hours of videos, and then it became minutes, and now even seconds with TikTok. So we don't have a lot of attention to spend. And if we need to immerse someone in a full-blown experience, we need to make it short and we need to make it count. And if you are able to be present for 90 seconds, it's much more valuable um, to be present and not in the mind for 9 minutes of those 10 minutes of meditation. This is why I'm saying that quality over quantity, especially in the realm of the mind, is something that everyone can understand.
What a very cool gift you and your friend have given to the world, man. This is just beautiful. Thank you for doing it. Also, I mentioned that we're going to talk about your awesome book, Behind the Mask, Beyond the Mind, Discover Who You Really Are. In your intro in this book, you state, I'm not here to create another belief system, but rather to make you question yours. What led you to write this book and why?
So this book is a kind of a dialogue I have with the reader, and I'm taking it from the point of view of my own life and experience. I'm not trying to create any new dogmas or try to convey new belief systems, because I think that, in essence, for a person, a human being, to really understand something is by first-hand experience, not by a belief system. So if I would tell you about pain, you could understand it to a certain extent. But if I would hurt you in some physical way and you would feel the pain, it will not you will not need any further explanation. You will feel it in every fiber of your body. And this is why I think that experience is much more important than any belief, any philosophical discourse or any dogma. So in this book, I go through my life from my childhood to my adolescence, and then evolving as a grown adult, to show the progression of one personal story, which is me, but in a way that I discuss the questions I have about life. And when I discuss them, it's more of it's not like a top-down kind of bringing the knowledge and absorb it and learn from me and everything will be good. But I'm just showing you the absurdity and the paradox that I'm not talking about you, Carl, I'm just talking about any reader. Anyone has the ideas and notions that they have collected, just breaking them down and showing them the absurdity of it, showing them that, you can think in a different way, and here are some possibilities. Here are some new ideas. Here are some cracks in reality. Take a look. Don't be intellectually lazy. Take these ideas and push them to the end. Don't believe any word they say. And I state in the book that I'm not a mystic, I'm not a scientist, and I'm not a preacher. I don't subscribe to any religion, and I don't have any formal biases in these matters. I'm just a curious guy who you might resonate with my story. And while I'm kind of bringing those questions to the surface, it may inspire the reader in some way to look at his life and say, hey, maybe I was missing something, and try to redirect his or her attention to the new possibilities that they might experience if they go this way.
Even in the intro of your book, you state throughout your life, various individuals have influenced you, shaping your perception of life and self, and you invite them, the reader, to shed these preconceived notions. And you kind of just explained that, but in the modern world, we're molded and shaped by the powers that be and programmed and that type of thing. And we need to shed all of that, and your book and your mindfulness app are part of that, and that is so cool. One other thing, too, do you believe that if much of humanity adopted the daily practice of being mindful, that it really can change the world for better right now?
Really, I believe that this is the only way, because the way we live now is a sort of chaotic system that we have created, in which we are governed by people who we don't trust, and we are policed by people, and we are almost, like in 1984, George Orwell's book, The Big Brother, under constant surveillance. And we are freaked out, we're anxious, and mental health is becoming the biggest pandemic in the world, according to health organizations worldwide. And I feel that there will be no law and no lawmaker that can resolve this kind of issue. This issue can only be resolved by us as a society healing ourselves. And the way we can heal ourselves is stop trying to push our agendas and ideas onto each other, but rather support each other on our own way in healing ourselves. Because when one heals himself, he is then open to become an inspiration for others to heal themselves as well. There is no one that can heal you completely except your own self. And as a society, if we embrace mindfulness as a way of living, we will be able to see that there is a way beyond the intellectual, straightforward thinking of we need to do this to accomplish that, and all this go, go, go attitude, but rather rely on the possibility that if one heals himself or herself, she can or he can become a beacon of inspiration for others without any third parties' agendas, ideas, religions, belief systems, and so on. It can only come from within. And I mean, history proved that. How many religions did we have as humanity? Well, did it help anyone? Maybe individuals, but mostly you can see that people are suffering. And human suffering is spread across the globe. It doesn't matter in what position we are. We suffer from anything. We suffer from poorness, we suffer from richness, we suffer from security, we suffer from insecurity, we suffer from everything. So the only healing that can take place and change the course of how we interact and flourish as a society is by mindful living. This is my belief.
If humanity can adopt and adapt to 90 seconds of mindfulness as a beginning of ending separation and conflict and joining together in humanity and helping us to get back to our higher self, back to our source. Boy, this is a beautiful beginning, and let's start here. And again, an awesome thing that you are doing, you and your co-founder with your Affirmate app and your books. So, what's next for you, Rudy? Do you hold workshops live or online? You got another book in the pipeline?
So currently fully vested and concentrated on the Affirmate app, and I feel that we have a long way to go and a lot of practices to introduce and a lot of people to speak with. Currently, I'm doing mainly podcasts. I'm not hosting any events, and I don't really have time for it. But maybe in the future, it will be a natural part, progression of what we're trying to achieve. In terms of books, I have many ideas and many things I want to write about. Artists are never satisfied with their work. So even when I was composing music, you compose music and you feel it's great, and then you come to it after a week and you say, I can do it better. So after I wrote the book, when I read it, I said, well, I could explain it much better. And there's a lot of subjects that really interest me and that I would like to share, but I feel like it will be maybe 5 years from now, or I don't know. I can't commit, but definitely when I have more time to sit and reflect, something that I love to do, to sit and reflect on reality, and then I get inspiration from nature, and just the words come by their self.
Well, not only are you mindful, you're not bored either, are you?
No. Life is very profound and rich with meaning. I'm not bored for a fraction of a second.
That's awesome. So, what is your website, and how is the best? What is the best way for people to communicate directly with you if they should desire to?
So you can definitely go to the Affirmate app website, because me and my co-founders now are just answering every email, so you can absolutely talk directly to me. It's www.affirmate.app, or you can find me on social media, mainly on IG. I can share the links with you, and if you're so kind, you can share it in the podcast release notes. That would be great.
Absolutely. Rudy Daniel, you are amazing. You're doing beautiful things for the world. I already feel in a better place just having used your Affirmate app this morning, and I will continue to use that and encourage other people to download it. And thank you for being on World Awakenings. You're so gracious. Namaste, brother.
Carl, thank you so much. It was beautiful talking to you, and hopefully we can meet in the future again.
This has been another episode of World Awakenings, the fast track to enlightenment with host Carl Gruber, a certified law of attraction life coach. We welcome you to tune in to each and every episode of World Awakenings as we open your mind, your heart, and your eyes to the fact that the world's population is now, more than ever, awakening to the truth of all things spiritual, metaphysical, and enlightening, and just how much they play an all-important role in our moment-to-moment daily life. Much love and light to you, my friend, and thank you for tuning into World Awakenings.